Hello everyone, Jules here. Today I'd like to talk about guidelines for the esoteric path, and this is a type of part 2 to an earlier video that I did in recent times regarding the esoteric path, and the first video was about choosing a group or organisation for the esoteric path. And today's video is going to be about books and about which particular books are good to begin with and how to choose those books. And I'm going to talk about 2 books in particular today, and I will also put a link to the first video for people who have not seen the first video yet. So the first book I want to talk about is The Secret Teachings of All Ages by Manly P. Hall. And it's quite a thick book, and I have got quite a detailed review of this book on my esoteric book playlist on my channel. So if you want to know more about this book, it's a good idea to watch that video as well. I am going to talk a bit about this book today though, and just give you an outline of what is in the book. And one of the points that I want to make about these esoteric books to choose when you are beginning on the esoteric path is 2 things. First of all, I think it's good to choose books that are accessible, that you are likely to read, and that you are likely to want to read. Most of the books that I recommend, and most of the books on my esoteric book playlist videos, are usually paperback books, for example. I rarely recommend or actually own many hardback books, and that's for a few reasons. Hardback books are more expensive, they are heavier and more cumbersome to handle, and I think a lot of people would probably agree that if you have hardcover books that are interesting to look at, they are more like a coffee table book, and you are more likely to either leave that on your shelf or to just glance at it sometimes, but you are not as likely to physically work and study that book as you would a paperback book. And the other advantage of paperback books, apart from being more reasonable in price, is that you probably won't feel reluctant to highlight the books where you want to. You can also highlight your books in pencil as well if you feel that you're marking the books. But you can also get some of these books second hand, and then you won't feel like you have damaged the book with your highlighting, and you're more likely to do that and feel more comfortable doing that with a paperback book. And I think paperback books, as I was saying, that they're not as expensive, and the other reason why they're not as expensive is that some of these hardcover books tend to be limited edition, for example, and you don't need to have those kinds of books. I probably have very few of those types of books, and I know from experience that I have not used those types of books anywhere near as often as I have used these paperback formats of the book. These types of books, because they have so much information They're usually not suited to Kindle. You can get these on Kindle if you wish, but because there is so much information in here, and they have so many pages in the paperback form, you may feel a bit overwhelmed. You may not be able to just dip in and out of the book and read certain chapters. It's up to you, but I actually don't use Kindle books because I just feel like I'm continually scrolling all the time as I'm browsing or looking through. These types of books are better for study, and what I also recommend is if you are interested in particular subjects, that you might consider having some journals or relatively inexpensive exercise books on particular subjects that you may want to write notes in. I know that some people may write notes on margins of books as well. I mean, you could do that in pencil as well if you wish. I actually don't. None of my notes have ever been written on the books themselves. I've always written those down separately somewhere else. Anyway, back to this book. This book is an absolute classic. It has lots of information in here. Secret Teaching of All Ages by Manly P. Hall. And I'll just give you a bit of an outline of what is in this book. And I've written down some of the subjects just to save me flipping through the book while I'm talking. There's about 675 pages in the book, and the types of subjects in here. Now, this type of book, this Secret Teaching of All Ages, it's actually available in two different publications. I have got the Dover publication. I prefer that one. It's also available in a Penguin publication. It's Penguin or Tarcher publication, but I prefer the Dover publication, which I have. The Secret Teaching of All Ages is more of an esoteric knowledge and history type of book, but it's all divided into chapters on different subjects. So, for example, it starts off with secret societies, and it also mentions the ancient historical background about, philosophers such as Plato and Pythagoras. Masonry is in here. Alchemy. It has a very good chapter on Kabbalah. Rosicrucianism. There is quite an emphasis on Rosicrucianism in this book because Manly P. Hall was a Rosicrucianist. Mysticism. And at the back of the book there is a very good there's a bibliography and an index, so you very much need an index with this type of book. So I think this is a really good book, I think, to start with, because I know when I was first studying esoteric wisdom many years ago, it's very, very handy and practical to have all of this in one book, because there are several books on many different topics, and I think this is, much better value to have a lot of these subjects all in one book and divided into chapters, so you can read whichever subject or whichever chapter you wish to at the time. So as far as what I would call it, a kind of beginner overview book, and one with lots of information that you will probably look at many times over a period of years probably, The Secret Teaching of All Ages by Manly P. Hall is probably the best book to start. So that's that one. Now the second book is The Western Mysteries by David Allen Hulse. And this is this is a book 2 of the key of it all. Book 1 is called The Eastern Mysteries. This is the Western Mysteries. And this is a very thick book too. This book is more about magical systems of the esoteric path, and it's very Golden Dawn based. So this is more about the magical systems themselves. So that is where it is different to the Secret Teaching of All Ages, because that's more about the esoteric knowledge and history, covering many subjects. But this one is more about the magical systems and from a Golden Dawn perspective. And it does have tarot. It has tarot in regard to the Golden Dawn system, and it has the major arcana cards in regard to the Hebrew letters, particularly with the major arcana cards. And it goes all the way through. It has quite I think it's an 80-page chapter on tarot. So for example, here is a very large picture of the Fool card, and then it has all the information on the other side about each of the major arcana cards in connection to the Hebrew letters. So it explains that very well. And then after that it goes through the numbered pip cards, and it's the tarot section is illustrated with the Waite-Smith deck, and it also includes the court cards as well. And it's particularly from the Golden Dawn, Samuel Mather's and Crowley perspective, even though it's illustrated with the Waite-Smith deck for that tarot chapter. Now I'm just going to talk about what kind of subjects are in the Western Mysteries book. It is about 600 pages. It's got larger print than the Secret Teaching of All Ages. So the Secret Teaching of All Ages is a little bit more compact, so that has 675 pages. This one has 600 pages, including a very detailed bibliography. It's very helpful, and it's divided into different subjects and an index again. So this one is mainly the magical systems, 80-page chapter on tarot with the major arcana in regard to the Hebrew letters, and it actually covers the whole 78 cards. There is some runes information in here. It even has Mayan glyphs and symbols in here. Magical alphabets is quite a big emphasis in here, and it includes the Enochian alphabet system as well as the Hebrew alphabet. And it includes information about John Dee, the magician John Dee, because he was the one who created the Enochian system of magic. So this book is more about the magical systems and the alphabets, and there's some numerology systems in here. I think for people who want to know more about the magical systems themselves and the tarot in regard to the Hebrew letter meaning and connection, if you are particularly interested in the magical systems in regard to the numerology and the alphabets, I think it is good for that. This I think is more of a reference book. It's really good to refer to it's not the kind of book you could use the index and refer to different subjects and different chapters, like the Secret Teaching of All Ages. But the Secret Teaching of All Ages is one that you are more likely to actually sit and read or sit and study with. This one is more useful from an information perspective, and looking at how these systems work and how they were created and the ideas behind the systems, behind the magical systems. I think it's more that type of book really, but it is such a great reference book that is why I am recommending this one as well for people who want more of an emphasis on the magical systems, including the tarot, and especially from a Golden Dawn type of perspective. So this is an example of two books that I think are very good introductory books for the esoteric path, and I wanted to talk about these two particular books for people who are interested, and I'll put the details below the video. And I wanted to also make the point about the fact that you are far more likely, from a practical point of view, you are far more likely to use paperback books rather than hardcover or limited edition books, because they are usually not as practical to handle, and people tend to leave the hardcover books on the shelves, and they tend not to want to use them or handle them as much. And if you want to start on the esoteric path, there is study or even just good general reading involved, and you want to be able to feel that you can and want to use these books in a way that's more practical, and that you are going to continue to read and study. So I hope this was helpful today about those two particular beginner type books that are very informative and useful. And I will put the link of the first video about the guideline on the esoteric path, about choosing a group or organisation. So I hope this has been useful and helpful to people. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.